Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to break down the 10-game NBA main slate on Tuesday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. Guys, I want to thank you again for the continued support. Hit over 7,000 subscribers on YouTube just the other day. Hit almost 700 concurrent viewers in the live stream tonight. So, again, the support has been overwhelming recently. So thank you guys again. If you guys do enjoy this content, would really appreciate if you leave a like button on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos, you don't want to go live. Let's try to aim for 200 likes on this video, guys. Also, if you guys cannot watch these videos, I do upload an Apple podcast of a link down below. If you guys are interested in signing up for premium content, I offer that on patreon.com. Also linked down below. You can check out the different packages if you're interested in signing up, or if you're curious about anything, just let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter or in the YouTube comment section. And then finally, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. If you guys are not familiar with PrizePicks, this site you can bet on player props. So again, you're betting on over/unders for player projections. If you guys want to sign up, you can use the code DKDFS. That's DKDFS, all one word. Link down below. If you use my code, you get 100% match up to $100. So if you put $100 in, you get $200 to play with. But yeah, that's really it, guys. So with that all out of the way, let's jump into the video. Before we talk about players and the prices for this 10-game slate, let's look back at my lineup here from Monday. And Monday is just one of those, what could have been nights. Injuries suck. They really, really do. And especially with Ja Morant. Now, positive news here is they said it's an ankle sprain. So I was a little worried it could have been season ending based on what we saw for Ja Morant. But looks like it's just an ankle sprain, so he should be back this season, which is really, really good news. Again, the priority was to make sure he is okay. But as far as DFS-wise, yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? Because I was, I had a pretty good lineup, I thought, with the value in, obviously, the Brooklyn guys, with TLC, with Prince. I told you guys I was pretty high in DeLon Wright. Even though he came off the bench, I still liked him. And then, I used Jeremy Grant, paired him with LeVert, who was obviously, the chalk play of the night. And then went with Christian Wood and Harden. Now, I honestly am a little bit surprised at this ownership. 54% for Wood, 63% for Harden. I thought it would be a lot higher. But yeah, again, fortunately, injuries suck. So prayers up to Ja Morant. Again, looking like it's not too bad, looking like it's just an ankle sprain. But that's a look back, guys. So I hope you guys avoided the injury and had a great night. And yeah, we got 10 games to talk about. So super, super excited, at least for me too, to talk about another slate. Again, injuries are just terrible. And the other night, again, had the blowout. So I know luck's going to go my way eventually, hopefully. But yeah, let's talk about this 10-game slate. So we have Warriors with Pistons is a 222.5 over/under. The Warriors are 3.5-point favorites. Celtics and Pacers is a 221 over/under. The Celtics are 1-point favorites. Bulls and Wizards a 234 over/under. The Wizards are 5.5-point favorites. This one obviously looks pretty good. As far as game stacking goes, if you want to do that for GVPs. Knicks and Cavs a 217 over/under. The Cavs are 3.5-point favorites. We have Bucks. We have Heat a 222.5 over/under. The Bucks are 4.5-point favorites. Not looking like Jimmy Butler is going to play. That is pretty significant. Could open up some value there for the Heat. Magic Thunder 219.5 over/under. The Magic are 5-point favorites. Nuggets and Kings is a 223.5 over/under. The Nuggets are 2.5-point favorites. Timberwolves Clippers are 229.5 over/under. The Clippers are 8-point favorites after they got absolutely destroyed by the Mavs by like 50 points. There's no Karl-Anthony Towns in this one, so there's a little bit of blowout risk here. And then finally, Pelicans Suns. I think this game also has some upside. 221.5 over/under with the Suns favored by 3. So I'm actually going to go team by team here, guys. A lot of you have been commenting in the comment section, say you prefer the team by team breakdown as opposed to position by position. But let me know if you guys have a strong take. Do you prefer position by position or team by team? What I had historically done last couple of years is for the videos, I would do position by position, and then live streams I'll do team by team. But we'll do team by team here. Again, that's a lot of you guys asked for. So Let's start at the top of the Knicks, and we have Julius Randle at 8.2K. I do like Julius Randle. Again, the offense runs zone. The minutes are there for him. Tom Thibodeau, he'll play 35 minutes as long as his game stays close. It's just 8-2. That feels about right. Like, he did have the 61 fantasy point game against the Bucks. I think that's more of an outlier for him. What I do like with Randle is he stuffs the stat sheet. Like, he is a guy that can go out and get you a triple-double, and the matchup is solid here against Cleveland. So, not saying Randle's out of play. I just think he's priced about right. Barrett seems a little overpriced there at 7-1. Now, there are some injuries to monitor here for the Knicks. We have Alec Burks questionable. We have Obi Toppin out. Rivers is out. Knox is questionable. Quickly's out. So Dennis Smith Jr. is out. They're very, very thin at the guard position. If all these guards are out, then I am actually looking to Alfred Payton in the mid-range. He had a great shooting game. We can't expect him to shoot 12 of 16 again, but the thing would be is they have no one else to play. So he would probably have to play about 30 minutes in a good matchup. What I do like for Alfred Payton too, he's usually a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So I actually think he's firmly in play if all those guards are out for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson on a 10-game slate, I'm not dealing with that headache. He does have upside, but we know this guy has historically been struggling with foul issues. And yeah, that's really it for me for the Knicks. So let's move on to the Cavs. So the Cavs are a team that have looked good to start the season. Andre Drummond at 8.7K, I think this is too cheap. Now, tilted me the first game, I had him. They only played him 27 minutes. Wasn't really in foul trouble. Cool. Next game comes out, plays 44 minutes. Again, the double overtime, so 34 in regulation. The game against Philly played 26 minutes, but again, that blew out, so he's probably on pace. I think the plan is to play him 30 to 35 minutes. And at 8.7, I think this is underpriced for this matchup. So as long as we get minutes into the 30s for Andre Drummond, I think he does make for one of the better spun ups at his price. Colin Sexton's at 6.9K. I think he's fine, but feels about right, that price. Larry Nance Jr. with no Kevin Love, I actually do like in the mid-range. I'm a big Larry Nance fan because he's a guy that just stuffs the stat sheet. He doesn't have to score to get you there, and when he does have a decent shooting game, he can have a really nice game like he did game 1 there in the regular season. So I do like him. I think he plays probably mid-30s minutes, and at this price, I think he's firmly in play in the mid-range. And I got to talk about Darius Garland. 5.9K. I mean, this guy has been on fire to start the season. I don't really know where this is coming from, but 22, 6 and 6, 21, 12 and 5, 14 and 7 in a blowout. He's looking good. Price isn't moving. I don't think he keeps up this level of production, but again, he has been on fire. I'm not going to talk you off him if you want to play him. Again, hard to argue with what he's been doing. Osman with no Kevin Love only played 22 minutes, so I think he's fine, but I would rather get to Larry Nance. Last guy I'll mention here is JaVale McGee. The only reason I mention him is if you look at the slate, there's not a ton of standout value at the moment. So, JaVale McGee, if there's not a ton of great value, he's someone you can consider. He'll play about 15 minutes. Again, he's a decent point per minute guy. He's had 26, 13, and 21 fantasy points in limited time. So, yeah, you can throw him in there for value if not a lot opens up throughout the day. But let's move on to Golden State and Detroit. So, Golden State, Steph Curry at the top at 9.6. I do like a good amount here. Whenever you can... or whenever you think that Golden State is going to have a competitive game, which they should against Detroit, two bad teams going up against each other, then I think you want interest in Steph, right? The first 2 games, he had decent games, but did not play in the fourth quarter because of the blowout. The last game I told you guys, I was really high on Chicago and Golden State. Well, 129 to 128. He had 56 fantasy points. Offense runs through him. The secondary pieces like Oubre and Wiggins have been struggling, so this offense is Steph Curry's offense. And he will play mid-30s minutes as long as this game stays close. It's a good match against Detroit. I have a lot of interest in him at the top. He's one of my favorite plays. Andrew Wiggins, I always say this, but you guys know the rule. I do not play Andrew Wiggins unless there's a ton of injuries. I don't do it. I know he had a decent game last game. I'm not going there. Draymond Green is still out. Wiseman at 5'9", had a bad game last game, but minutes been mid-20s for him. I think he's an interesting GPP play, not really a cash play. Now, Kelly Oubre actually intrigues me as a GPP play. The reason I say that is, look at these shooting numbers. 3 of 14, 1 of 10, 3 of 16. I read a stat that his only points so far are off dunks. He has not scored a field goal other than a dunk. So he is not going to continue to shoot this bad. He shot 3 of 14, put up 22 fantasy points. He shot 3 of 16, put up 28 fantasy points. Imagine if he just has a half-decent shooting game, right? So I think this is an interesting buy low on a guy like Kelly Oubre. I'm not going to go to Pascal. Everyone else, Golden State's just been using too many players in the rotation, so I don't want to mess with the bench guys. Let's move on to Detroit. So Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose should be back in this one. Let's talk about Blake at 6'9". I think it's firmly in play. He played 44 the last game. Again, that was in double overtime, so 34. I think the plan is for him to play about mid-30s minutes, which is actually decent. It's a good matchup. Not my favorite play, but definitely viable. Jeremy Grant at 6'5" is fine. I think I'd rather get to Blake, though, to similar price. Now, Derrick Rose actually intrigues me as a GPP play. I think he goes a little bit overlooked. We kind of know what Derrick Rose is. He's going to play about high 20s minutes off the bench, and he's a high-usage guy in a good matchup. So is he a cash game play? No, but I like him for GPPs. I think the ownership will be somewhat low on him. Plumlee, I think, is a fine play for both formats. We know what we're getting out of Mason Plumlee. About 30 minutes. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. It's a good matchup. I think he is definitely in play in the mid-range. The other options, like DeLon Wright, like Josh Jackson, I think they're okay value. If there's not a ton of value that opens up throughout the day, then they become more viable. Like, we'll see if they continue to bring DeLon Wright off the bench or not. But again, he's a decently, high usage guy when he's out there. But again, we have Blake back, we have D Rose back. He kind of will take probably a back seat offensively to them. Josh Jackson, again, he's been decent as well, but they're more secondary plays at the moment. Maybe more viable, again, if there's not a ton of value that opens up. Let's move on to Boston and Indy. So this is a game I don't have a ton of interest in. Two pretty solid defensive teams. Like Tatum's at 8.8K. He had 48 fantasy points the last game. Sure, you can look to him, but again, they're two pretty good defensive teams that play at a slower pace. Jaylen Brown, same thing, like 7.5 feels about right, does still have some upside. You know where the offense is coming from Boston. It's the top two guys. But yeah, I don't think like Thompson and Tice aren't playing a ton of minutes. I do want to mention Robert Williams. He played 22 minutes the last game. Now, how many minutes is he going to get on a night-to-night basis? A little bit more in question. But I would say somewhere between 10 to 20. If you play him, you got to hope he gets the higher end because he actually is a good point per minute guy. Like we saw the last game, we're going for 30 fantasy points in 22 minutes. So yeah, there's not a ton of great value at the moment. I think Robert Williams is definitely a viable play, but risky because minutes are a little bit more up in the air. And I'll mention Peyton Pritchard too. He's had 25 and 23 minutes in the last couple of games. He's 3.5K. So sure, not going to be a super high usage guy, but rookie, I think he's a pretty talented player. Yeah, I think you can give a look to him at the moment with there not being a ton of value. On the Pacers side, you guys know Sabonis is always in play for me. Even in a tough matchup against Boston, he put up 41 fantasy points, double-double, hit the game-winning shot. He has triple-double upside every single time he takes the court. The issue I have is just the matchup. Matchup against Boston is not great, but I think he's still in play at the mid-range. Just a really safe play, going to play big minutes, stuffs the stat sheet. Yeah, always in place of bonus. Brogdon at 7.2. Oladipo is back, so take a slight hit to his usage, but still a pretty safe play. He'll play mid-30s minutes. He's a guy that will get you a lot of assists, also can get some rebounds. I think he's a fine option, but more of a secondary play in this slate. And with Oladipo, Turner, T.J. Warren, when everyone's healthy, I don't look to these guys. If there's some injuries on this team, that's when I consider like these secondary plays, but really it's Sabonis, it's Brogdon. That's it for me. The value, don't think we have to go there. Let's move on to Toronto and Philly. So Toronto, we have Siakam at 8.2, Lowry at 7.5, Van Fleet at 7.4. Not necessarily the best matchup here against Philly, but all three, what we know Toronto is good is they will play big minutes, the main guys. Like Siakam, he played 43 minutes that last game. That did not go to overtime. Kyle Lowry, 35. Van Fleet, 35, right? These guys will play the big minutes. So I think getting to one of these guys is not a bad option at all. But, trying to nail down which one it's going to be that has a really good game is a little bit more difficult. So I think all three are firmly in play, but I have a difficult time trying to nail down, again, which one is going to have the really good game. So all three guys are firmly in play. Boucher, you guys know I'm a huge Chris Boucher fan. Look what he did the last game. 28 minutes, 53 fantasy points. This guy is an amazing point per minute guy. But they said that since they're going up against Embiid, they might use Alex Len more off the bench. So that does worry me, obviously. And the price is up to Boucher. I'll probably pass for now. But yeah, Chris Boucher is this guy I love playing. Now, Aaron Baines at 4.8. Again, I think they're going to need him a little bit more to guard Joel Embiid. The price came up to 4.8. I still think it's a viable price, but not amazing. And that's probably it for me. Like OG Anunoby, he'll get the minutes. He's okay, but again, 5.2. That seems priced accordingly. So let's move on to Philly. Philly, again, we had that surprise scratch from Embiid like 10 minutes before lock last night. And I told you guys, like, I literally went for a walk to clear my head for like 10 minutes. And I come back and I get that news like 5 minutes ago. I had to run and change my lineup. I get Tobias Harris in there, who has 40 fantasy points in 2.5 quarters. The game blows out. I get him a low ownership. And Dwight Howard, who gets 4 fouls in 10 minutes. Just on a bad luck streak. But yeah, Embiid at 9.8K against Toronto, I think is definitely in play as a spend up. He's a guy that can go out and get you 60 to 70 fantasy points any single time he takes the court. So he's really the guy of interest in on the Philly side. I'm not really looking to Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris when Embiid is healthy. These are guys to look to, obviously, when Embiid is out. The other options, the secondary options, like Seth Curry, Shake Milton, I just don't think we have to do it. Danny Green is 3.5. I guess you can throw him in the player pool, but he's so reliant on the scoring, I don't want to do it. And that's really it for me on the Philly side. Not a ton of interest. Chicago, Washington, this is a game I have a lot more interest in. I think there's a good amount of plays in this one. Zach LaVine at 8.4. Washington, as a team, not great defensively. This game should stay close. Two bad teams going up against each other. Same thing I'll say about LaVine, right? When you can project him to play his normal minutes, he's a guy that is a really good fantasy player. 52 fantasy points in 35 minutes. The two games that blown out, obviously not because of the minutes. So Zach LaVine at 8.4K. The offense runs through these two guards. LaVine is still the more talented guard compared to Kobe White. But both those guards are definitely in play here in a good matchup. Lauri Markkanen, we got to monitor this. He's questionable at 6'6". If he misses, that's a boost to those guards. I think, it would be interesting to see what they do with the starting lineup. Do they move Otto Porter in? Thad Young might be back. He's on the Pro Bowl side, so does he play? We'll see. If Lauri Markkanen plays, I don't have a ton of interest in him at 6'6". That's just a little pricey for me. Now, Kobe White at 6'5", I do like. I'm a Kobe White fan. He's not been shooting the ball the best recently, but the minutes will be there for him as long as the game is close. Same with LaVine, right? They'll play mid-30s minutes. And 6.5K, I think that is a little bit underpriced. Again, he's a guy that will do it all, can get you the assists, the rebounds, and score the ball. So I think Kobe White firmly in play in the mid-range. Wendell Carter Jr. finally had the big game. Man, he couldn't do that when I was on him game one. But no, seriously, 6.1K. I do like the matchup, but that feels like he's priced right. And again, with Otto Porter Jr., with Patrick Williams, we'll see what they do with the starting lineup if Lauri Markkanen is out. Otto Porter, though, really hasn't been playing a ton of minutes. I thought he would play more in the game against Golden State. Still only played 21. So I think the plan is to only play him like 20 minutes off the bench. Now this is a revenge game narrative, but again, just the minutes are not huge on him. If I knew Otto Porter was going to play like high 20s minutes, I would like him as a contrarian play. But minutes are just not there for him. Possibly would have more interest if Lauri Markkanen is out and he's like moved into the starting lineup. Then I would have a lot more interest. I guess last guy I'll mention is Tomas Satoransky at 3.5. 25 and 23 minutes. I think he'll play, mid-20s minutes off the bench. He's a decent point per minute guy. Again, he struggled against Golden State, but with there being very little value plays, I think he's a guy you can look to. On the Washington side, so Westbrook at the top of 9.7, I think looks really solid. Chicago is terrible defensively. He has not shot the ball well either. 9 of 22, 6 of 19. He still basically had 60 fantasy points in each of those games. And yes, he's playing alongside a really good player in Brad Beal, but Beal is not Harden. Harden was a higher usage guy than Brad Beal. So Westbrook's going to have to do more here. He's still priced under 10K. Love the matchup. Westbrook is one of my favorite plays at the top. I do like him a good amount. I don't mind Beal either. I think I would prefer Westbrook just because he is a guy that isn't necessarily like he can do more where Beal at times can be a little bit more reliant on the scoring. I mean, Beal obviously will get you the assists and the rebounds, but not to the extent of Russell Westbrook. So when there's similar plays, I'll go to the guy who can do a little bit more with, the rebounds and the assists, but both firmly in play there at the top. Now, a contrarian play I kind of like today, he's still a little overpriced, but Thomas Bryant at 6'8". He's had some bad matchups. Philly and then Orlando. The plan is, I think, to play him about 30 minutes. He's a guy I like targeting bigs against Chicago. Like, I'm going to hammer that home all year long. I did that last year. I really want to target bigs against this Chicago team. Like, Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. is not a good defensive front court. So I think Thomas Bryant is an intriguing GPP play. Probably not an optimal play, probably not like a cash play, but someone I'm looking to for maybe to get different in large field stuff. But really, that's it. Like with Westbrook healthy, I'm not really looking to limited Bertans. It takes Neto out of play, even though he surprisingly again had a smash game the last game. So let's move on to Milwaukee and Miami. Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo at 10.8K. Well, this is a game finally. I think we get full minutes from Giannis Antetokounmpo. The game against Golden State, blown out. They blow out Golden State. The game against the Knicks, surprisingly, they got blown out. I did not see that one coming. But this one, again, what's a 4.5 point spread, I think? 5 points. No Jimmy Butler. But yeah, Giannis at 10.8, I think is a safe guy, a safe spend up if you can get to him. We know, like, and plus, guys, sorry, I couldn't talk there. Plus, he should get more minutes, right? He played 36 minutes when the game stayed close against Boston. Again, 27, that was the blowout. 32, that was a blowout. So I think Budenholzer is extending the starters a bit more than he did last year, which is honestly pretty big news. Because last year it was 31, 32 minutes of Giannis, maybe. Now it's looking like 35 to 36. You may not think that's a huge deal, but when Giannis Antetokounmpo is like a 2 fantasy point per minute guy, add on another like 8 fantasy points to a score, right? So I do like Giannis a lot at the top. I think he's a safe option. It's just a matter of, do you feel comfortable enough with the value around him? Now, Middleton's been playing fantastic too. I have no issue if you want to save some money in Middleton. He has been really good and playing well, with Giannis. Normally, Middleton's a guy I look to when Giannis is out, but he's been consistent with Giannis in. I think he actually isn't playing the mid-range. Drew Holiday's price came down to 6-7. Minutes haven't been as high in him, but I think, if the game stays close, he'll probably play mid-30s minutes. He's the cheapest of the bunch. Don't hate him. Bobby Portis, I think, will be a little bit over-owned. People will box score watch, see the 26 minutes. Now, don't get me wrong. I love playing Bobby Portis, but those are 2 blowout games. If this game stays close, I think we get like high teens in minutes. So I'm probably not going to look to Bobby Portis here. Brook Lopez, the price is way down in him. I think he does play 25 to 30 minutes in a close game, but relying on scoring, more of just a GPP play. And I don't really think I get to any of the value. So let's move on to Miami. And Miami, even in a tougher match against Milwaukee, I'm pretty high on some of these guys. Bam at a buyout 8K, definitely viable. I think I prefer the guards, but with no Jimmy Butler, his usage will go up. We'll have to do more offensively. Should play mid-30s minutes. I think firmly in play here at 8K. And the matchup too. Like Brook Lopez cannot stay with Bam at a bio, so do like Bam. Again, Jimmy doubtful. So that's why I think Bam is a solid play. But then we get to the sweet range. Goran Dragic is one of my favorite plays here, 5.8K. I don't think he starts with Jimmy Butler out. I would guess they bring Kendrick Nunn into the starting lineup. I think they like bringing Dragic out the bench. He's a very high usage guy at the bench, can stuff the stat sheet. He will just have the ball in his hands basically the entire time when he's out there. At 5.8K with no Jimmy Butler, that's just too cheap. So I do really like Goran Dragic. And I have interest in Tyler Hero. I know he let me down on Christmas, but these two are going to have to step it up offensively with no Jimmy Butler. I like them both. Obviously, Dragic's been better recently. He's going to be higher owned. I still think you can look to Hero. I think you can play both. Really, if Miami is going to stay competitive, these two guards are going to have some big games. So Dragic, Hero, firmly in play in the mid-range. Duncan's viable as well, but again, very reliant on the scoring. He had a good shooting game that last time out. Does have a somewhat low floor for shots that fall, so more of a GPP play. I'm not going to play Bradley or Olynyk, who played 20 minutes in the first game and then didn't play the second game. I don't really want to mess with Myers Leonard or Achua. We'll see what they do with the starting lineup. I mean, Myers did play 20 minutes. I'm interested to see what they do. Achua has been getting okay minutes on the bench, but will we have to go there? Probably not. And then Kendrick Nunn's at 4K. I think he will be in the rotation. I think he might start here. We'll see. I think they might start him at point guard, but we don't know for sure. But if he does start, I think he's someone that probably would play mid-20s minutes, and then he would be a firmly in play for value. So, yeah, really Miami's a team I do like for value. Again, it's Dragic and it's Hero, probably my favorite plays, but Bam at the top, definitely viable, and possibly a guy like Kendrick Nunn if he does start. All right, 4 games left, guys. Let's talk about Orlando. So Vucevic at the top at 8-3. I like the matchup for him. What I'm worried about is just the minutes. 31, 28 minutes in games he wasn't in foul trouble. And these were close games. So that's not a good sign. Like, we need Vucevic to play 35 minutes. If he's going to play below 30 minutes, it makes him a lot riskier. So I think he can still get you there. The ownership will drop after that kind of bust in a great matchup. he's still a guy that can go out and crush. And if I knew he was going to play 35 minutes, I would have a lot more interest. But I think the minutes are a little bit more up in the air. Again, surprising that they're not playing him more in the regular season. Aaron Gordon, they're limiting his minutes. I'm not going to go there at 6'3". Fultz at 6'1" is a decent play in the mid-range. He'll play about 30 minutes. He's been pretty consistent. I think he's just a fine play. I don't play Evan Fournier, just like I don't play Andrew Wiggins. Terrence Ross has been on fire off the bench, but again, scoring dependent. I'll let others chase this. If his shot is not falling, he does not do anything else. So very, very low floor. I'll pass. And the value, I'm not going to get to either. So let's move on to Oklahoma City. SGA at 8-1. Tougher matchup, I think. I'll pass. I do like SGA this year, but he's a back-to-back tough matchups against Utah and against Orlando. I'm going to look elsewhere. Now, Al Horford actually is more viable. Same with Bazley. Horford, I expect to play about 30 minutes. Again, he gets a big boost playing the center position. I think he's definitely in play in the mid-range. I think Bazley's fine at 5'8", too. Both these guys should play about 30 minutes. Bazley probably plays a few extra minutes. Horford, Bazley are my two favorite plays in the Oklahoma City side. They're not like smash plays, but I think they're decent plays in the mid-range. George Hill, 4'8". Again, just not playing a ton of minutes. He's been productive, but more of a secondary play just because of the minutes. And that's probably it for me. Like, yeah, these bench guys are playing decent minutes. Muscala probably gets 15 to 20 minutes on the bench. If there's not a ton of value, I mean, I guess you could look to him, but I don't really want to go to these bench guys. So let's move on to Minnesota and the Clippers. Minnesota, no Karl-Anthony Towns. So this game does have some blowout risk, right? It's a 8-point spread. But if Minnesota is going to stay in this game, you know where it's coming from, right? D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley. These two guys will have to have big games if they're going to stay competitive. So for that reason, I think D'Angelo Russell is a really good GPP play. Would I go there in cash games? I don't know if I would, just because I'm not confident that they can keep it close with no cat. So there's some risk involved here. But again, he will have to have a big game if they want to keep it close. And same with Malik Beasley. Both these guys, should play over 30 minutes. Beasley, I think, will have to be the number 2 in this offense. He's a little bit cheaper. I like them both for GPPs. Don't know if I can pull the trigger on them in cash. Rubio, Edwards, they're fine, but I'd rather get to Beasley at a similar price. Naz Reid, I do like at 5-1. He is a good point per minute guy. He got in some foul trouble. Still played 28 minutes the last game, had 27 fantasy points. I think he starts, and as long as he stays out of foul trouble, probably plays about 30 minutes. So with there being not a ton of value on the slate, I think Naz Reid does look like a pretty good option here at 5.1K. The other options, Koji got injured. We'll see if he's available. I mean, if he's out, probably a few more minutes. A guy, Jarrett Culver, who would be potential value. Ed Davis will back up Naz Reid. He's a decent point per minute guy. I think you can give him a look if you want to get contrarian. But that's really it for me for Minnesota. Let's move on to the Clippers. So Clippers, we got him under Kawhi Leonard status, right? He is questionable. He did practice Monday, so I assume he plays. If he does play, then it's a little tricky because Clippers are a little bit more of a balanced team. But, with Kawhi versus Paul George, probably would give the edge to Kawhi. I think he's just safer, whereas Paul George, again, has a lower floor. So I think Kawhi is probably the safer play than Paul George, but both definitely in play in a really good matchup. And Minnesota is not a good defensive team at all. Now, with Ibaka versus Zubac, I do like them, but they're really splitting the center minutes. It's kind of like DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen. So they hurt each other's upside. If I knew Serge Ibaka was going to play close to 30 minutes, he would be one of my favorite plays in the mid-range. But 21, 20 minutes, not great. Again, Zubac playing a little bit more off the bench. I guess only did play 19-16 the last game, but yeah, they're just secondary plays. Lou Williams, minutes for him, probably gets mid-20s minutes. It is a good matchup. I guess you can give a look to him. He's not been shooting the ball well. He does have upside when he is, hitting some shots, obviously. Marcus Morris is still out, so Batum should start, probably play mid-20s minutes. He's a guy who can stuff the stat sheet again. I think he's kind of washed, but there's not a ton of value on the slate. So, yeah, Nick Batum is in play at that price, and that's really it for me for the Clippers. Let's fit 2 games left, New Orleans and Phoenix. This is a game I think does have upside. Ingram and Zion, I do like a good amount at 8.2 and 8.1K respectively. Ingram is the guy I think has a little bit more upside than Zion. I think his floor is also a little bit lower. Zion, probably not as high of a ceiling as Ingram, but probably has a little bit of a higher floor. I like them both. Both should play high 30s minutes. It's a good matchup against Phoenix. I like them both. Ingram, Zion, I think they're 2 of the better plays here. Not really at the top, but that next tier down. With Lonzo versus Bledsoe, so Bledsoe's been chalk the last 2 slates. I've avoided him. He shot the ball terribly. 2 of 10, 3 of 11, so that's going to lower the ownership. It is a revenge game against Phoenix if you guys are interested in that. I think the plan is for him to play about 30 minutes. Again, him and Lonzo Ball are pretty similar plays. Both guys will fill up the stat sheet. Now, Lonzo had the big game last game. Again, they've kind of been taking turns having decent games. They're both fine. It is a good matchup. I don't know if I'm super excited about either, but if you land on one of them, I'm not going to talk you off them. Now, again, with Steven Adams, I think Steven Adams is just the perfect cash game play. You know what you're getting out of him. 30 minutes, 25 to 35 fantasy points. Literally. Like, he probably won't get less. He probably won't get more. He is the perfect cash game play in a good matchup. Let's see. Josh Hart at 4.8 has been getting some good minutes off the bench. 27, 29, and 33 minutes. If they're going to play him about 30 minutes off the bench, he actually is a viable cheap play. He had a double-double last game. He's a decent rebounder, a good shooter. I think he is in play for value. I actually am intrigued by JJ Redick too, who has shot the ball terribly the last 2 games. 1 of 7, 1 of 8. So sure, they're not going to play him a ton when he's shooting the ball terribly, but when he is knocking down shots, 29 minutes, 30 fantasy points. There's not a ton of guys in this cheap range that have that type of upside. So JJ Redick definitely in play for GPPs. And that's it for me on the Pelican side. Let's finish up with let's move on to the Suns. Again, 1 game left. Booker's just too pricey at 9-1. I do like the matchup, but with Chris Paul there, I don't know if he has huge upside at this point. So more of a contrarian play for me. DeAndre Ayton at 7.4. So was in foul trouble the first couple games, was not in foul trouble that last game, but did blow out. I think the plan is to play him about 35 minutes if the game stays close. 7.4 does seem underpriced. Now, the individual matchup against Steven Adams isn't the best, but I think he's a decent play in the mid-range. Chris Paul at 7.1, I think the plan for him is to play about 30 to 32 minutes. I think I like the price a little bit better on him than I do Booker. Again, a high assist guy. I think he's a fine play as well. With Bridges versus Crowder versus Cam Johnson, I think the guy I prefer would probably be Cam Johnson. That's just a price point thing, right? I think he should get about 25 or so minutes. Again, decent matchup. So, yeah, he's in play for value with there not being a ton of standout plays. Sarge is back, though. That's my only concern with him probable. Like, what does that do to Cam Johnson's minutes? What about Jay Crowder, Bridges, right? So it makes them a little riskier, to be honest. And let's finish up with Denver and Sacramento. So Denver, Jokic at the top, definitely in play. Good matchup. Holmes, Whiteside, they can't handle him. He can stuff the stat sheet, so firmly in play Jokic if you can get to him. Jamal Murray at 7K, also in play. More suited for GPPs. Minutes should be there. He hasn't been shooting the ball great, but definitely a viable play there at that price. MPJ, Barton, Millsap, Gary Harris, all secondary plays for me. It is a decent spot, but I don't know if one of those guys really stand out. And let's move on to Sacramento. Let's finish up with Sacramento. So De'Aaron Fox at 7.6, more of a contrarian play for the matchup, but he should play mid-30s minutes if this game stays close. He can stuff the stat sheet again. Obviously, that last game it blew out, did not play great. But yeah, Fox more of a GPP play. Buddy Hield at 6.8, too reliant on scoring for me. I'm probably not going to go there. Bagley at 5.4, just minutes like 20 to 25. It just seems about right for him, that price. Harrison Barnes at 5.3, again, finally came back down to earth a bit. He had a strong start to the season. Like, I still can't get over the stat line in game 1. 21 points, 9 boards, 5 assists for Harrison Barnes. That is like the most surprising thing I've ever seen. He is a stand in the corner, shoot threes guy who will fall into some rebounds occasionally. That's it. So I'm not going to go to Harrison Barnes. Rashawn Holmes at 5K, that seems about right. He'll play 20 to 25 minutes. He's a high energy guy. Obviously, there's some risk of foul trouble. Halliburton at 4.8, don't know if we have to do it. Probably plays high to like 25 or so minutes, but I don't think we have to go there. Whiteside, the minutes went down for him, only played 10 minutes off the bench. If he was playing like 15 to 20, I would have a lot more interest for him. He's just a GPP play. Like, what you need here is you need Holmes foul trouble. Denver is a big team, so I don't know if they can necessarily go small ball. So maybe you can consider Whiteside, but again, not a good sign. He did only play 10 minutes at last game. And that's really it for me for the Sacramento side. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I really appreciate it if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos you don't want to go live. But yeah, thanks again, guys. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow in the live stream.